This is Into Sports. I'm Evan, and today I'm going to make 5 takeaways I had after Week 4 NFL on Sunday. The Monday night game is tonight, but it's the Bengals 0-3 versus Steelers 0-3, so I don't think we care about that too much. So let's start at number 1. Dwayne Haskins and Daniel Jones both played poorly. The number 6 and 15th pick played head-to-head. Now Haskins was thrust into action after Case Keenum threw an interception and was benched. Daniel Jones got the start from the beginning. And I just need to say, Haskins, yes, he had 3 picks, but he was not put into a position to succeed. He has bad weapons, a bad offensive line, on the road, and he didn't prepare as a starter. He was a backup, just got thrown into the game. I don't take too much out of that. But what I do know is that I didn't see Haskins as a guy ready to start, 4 or 5 weeks into the season. He only started, I believe, 13 games at Ohio State. He needs more experience. He's not a full NFL quarterback right now, but I still think his future is bright. For Daniel Jones, it wasn't very good. We overreacted to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, and we said, I'd rather have him over Baker Mayfield. I'd rather have him over half the quarterbacks in the league. And he struggled. Now, it wasn't terrible. Yeah, he made some bad decisions, some bad throws. But I like what I've been seeing out of Daniel Jones since the draft. Because the reason I was so critical of him was because I looked under 60% completion percentage, a guy not known to have a big arm or super athletic or any of that stuff, although he can scramble and make plays with his legs. But his average depth of target was extremely short. So he was throwing the ball short and he wasn't completing the football. And that made me think, oh, he's not that accurate. I didn't get to see a ton of him in college. I saw a little bit. But the good news is for Giants fans, his football that he's been throwing has looked pretty accurate through the start against Buccaneers. It was not as good against Washington, but in the preseason, he was solid as well. So I'm not going to overreact to the bad performance out of the 2 young quarterbacks. I still think both of them have bright futures. Our takeaway number 2. The Lions are for real. They've narrowly lost to the Kansas City Chiefs at home. The game came down to the final possession. Chiefs win 34-30. And I think the Lions are the best team in the NFC North. I think they're a better version of the Vikings. The Packers struggled. We'll talk about them in a minute. And the Bears have Mitchell Trubisky or Chase Daniel at quarterback, so they're not a serious contender. Matthew Stafford is still a mid-range, slightly upper half quarterback in this league. It's a great run game with Kerryon Johnson. Yeah, he fumbled at the 1-yard line. Okay. We don't need to talk about that fumble. Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, a very solid receiving core. TJ Hawkinson, young tight end. And in that game, they didn't have their best corner, Darius Slay. Quandre Diggs left the game. Another one of their defensive backs. Their tight end, Hawkinson, left the game. They had injuries, and they were still able to stay in it with the Kansas City Chiefs. You guys want to rave about Patrick Mahomes? I'm not there yet. He missed a lot of throws down the football field. We need to establish that. And the other thing is, this offensive line looks really good. Last year, they were middle of the pack to bad. This year, they're an upper tier offensive line. And they're able to protect Matthew Stafford. They're able to create running lanes for Kerryon Johnson. And this defense is dynamic. You look at that front four with Trey Flowers and Snacks Harrison, Ashawn Robinson. That's a very solid front with an elite corner in the secondary, Darius Slay, Justin Coleman, Quandre Diggs, a solid secondary. And Matt Patricia, I was very, very critical of him last year. But the culture that he has established in Detroit, it's looking a lot better. This football team schematically on the defensive side, they really limited the Kansas City Chiefs, even though they scored 34 points. That's limiting them. I'm very impressed by the Detroit Lions thus far. Lower expectations, better results for the Cleveland Browns. They made a statement in Baltimore this weekend. They scored 40-some points. They stopped Lamar Jackson and the offense that so many people are talking about. And they were still injured in the secondary. No Denzel Ward, no Greedy Williams. And they were still able to shut down this Ravens passing offense. I know they give up a big play in garbage time. But when the expectations were low, the results were high. When the expectations were high, the results were low. And Freddie Kitchens took responsibility for that loss versus the Rams. They've been on national TV, they've been scrutinized. You have Rex Ryan calling Baker Mayfield overrated as heck, and Baker Mayfield played a lot better this weekend. The Ravens couldn't stop Jarvis Landry. They shut out Odell though. I don't know what was going on there. And I think they've done the right thing on offense. They say, you gotta stop Nick Chubb to stop us. And Nick Chubb looked phenomenal against the Ravens on Sunday. They didn't go to 3 wide receiver, oh we're gonna sling it all over the field, Odell Beckham. No, they played smash mouth football with their elite running back. The offensive line is a lot better in run blocking than pass blocking, so they played to their strengths. And the Cleveland Browns play the 49ers on Monday Night Football. That's going to be an extremely interesting game next week. Alright, now to the Sunday night game. The Saints shut down Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. We talk about the money that Zeke made. We talk about the money that Dak's going to make. And we talked about what the Cowboys did with Kellen Moore, Dak Prescott, and a new offense, throwing the football more on first down, a more dynamic offense. But it sure didn't look dynamic on Sunday night because the New Orleans Saints and Marshawn Lattimore shut down Amari Cooper. That was the best football game I've ever seen Marshawn Lattimore play, and I've watched all of his games since he's been a New Orleans Saint. Sean Payton, mastermind, the best offensive mind in football. The way that he managed the game with Teddy Bridgewater. Bridgewater made the throws when necessary. People are going to criticize him because he only throws about 8 yards down the football field. But I'm in support of Teddy Bridgewater. Accurate, didn't make mistakes. The interception bounced off Ted Ginn's hands. It was a nice throw that he should have had, and he dropped. Cowboys defense played well, especially Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith. They were able to somewhat limit Alvin Kamara. But talk about limiting running backs. The Saints front four, David Onyemata, Malcolm Brown against Ezekiel Elliott. He couldn't get anything going. They couldn't convert on third down. They didn't have any big plays over the top, which I was scared of as a Saints fan. I thought Amari Cooper was going to feast. I thought Devin Smith was going to catch a 50-yard touchdown. I was very nervous to see the Cowboys passing offense, but they didn't play anybody in the first 3 weeks. They played the Giants, the Redskins, and the Dolphins, and people were crowning them as a top 4 team in football, as an elite team, as a tier 1 team. I don't want to crown teams after they played the Redskins, the Dolphins, and the Giants. And they played a real team in the New Orleans Saints in the Dome, and they lost. Now, they didn't play terribly because they lost by 2 on the road in New Orleans. That's not the worst outcome. But the Saints really put it to them. They played more physical. The offensive line played a lot better. Cowboys' offensive line gave up a little bit of pressure, although they're still a great unit. That's my takeaway. Saints shut down Dak and Zeke. And the 5th one, Packers defense unravels versus Carson Wentz and the Philadelphia Eagles on Thursday night in Lambeau. This is another one where they played Joe Flacco, Kirk Cousins, and Mitch Trubisky, and people were saying that the defense, including myself, I was saying this, that the Packers defense was phenomenal. They spent a lot of money in free agency to upgrade that defense. I like that a lot. They used the draft to take Rashawn Gary and Darnell Savage in the first round. But they really got exposed by Carson Wentz, Alshon Jeffrey, and especially the Eagles' running game with Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders. Now, to the Packers' credit, Aaron Rodgers put up a lot of points. Devontae Adams put up a lot of yards, 180 to be exact. Although he got injured, turf toe at the end of the game. Please play next week. You're on my fantasy team. Please play against Dallas. And that was a must-win game for the Eagles. And they won. It came down to the very end. Rodgers throws an interception on the goal line. It was impressive by Rodgers. It was impressive by Wentz. The quarterbacks were great. These are elite quarterbacks. But the defenses on both sides struggled. The Eagles need to find a corner. They need to trade for a Jalen Ramsey because they're getting exposed by every receiver that plays them. You think about Julio Jones. You think about Devontae Adams. You think about Calvin Ridley. You think about whoever they played in week 1. I'm forgetting right now. But that secondary is looking straight awful. They were able to rattle up Aaron Jones. The front 4 played great though. Fletcher Cox, Derek Barnett, even though he had that unfortunate hit on Jamal Williams. But Matt LaFleur, they have the ball. It's 1st and goal at the 1-yard line. And they throw the football 4 times in a row. We saw Freddie Kitchens do that last week. How did it work? Terribly. They lost the game because of it. And how did it work on Thursday night? terribly. I mean, can you at least run the football once? At least once. I don't know what these, young head coaches are thinking, that this is only like you cannot run the football on the goal line. But the Chiefs did that and it worked. Every team does that and it works. I get throwing it maybe twice, but at least run the ball just once. Just do yourself a service and score. I don't get it. Matt LaFleur, great play designer, terrible play caller. After the first 15 plays, which are scripted, which the Packers are great in, they're great in the first 15 plays. But after that, when he has to call, when he has to create his plays just off the top of his head, just calling it off what he sees, that's when he struggles. So Matt LaFleur, I like the play calling, I like the play designing. The calling, that's a different story. So those are my 5 takeaways from Week 4. Also, we can talk about how Tom Brady's numbers are a lot worse without Robert Gronkowski and Antonio Brown, but that's a story for a different time. The Bills played great. Josh Allen didn't. Those are my takeaways. Let's recap. Dwayne Haskins, Daniel Jones did not play well. Lions, they're a legitimate contender in the NFC. The lower expectations yielded better results for the Cleveland Browns, making a statement in Baltimore. The Saints defense shutting down Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott in the much talked about new Cowboys offense with Kellen Moore. And the Packers defense unravels versus Carson Wentz and the Philadelphia Eagles on Thursday night. Anyway, if you did enjoy, subscribe and all that stuff. Also, my Instagram page, that's where I post, my best bets, my each week's picks, etc. 3-0 in my best bets. I know nobody bet money on them this week, but if you did, you would have won a lot of money. Anyway, I'm your host, Evan, and I'm out. Peace.